All right, so good afternoon. Well, thank you so much for this great opportunity for us to to show you about our local circumstances in relation to adult education and learning. So yeah, that's an extra chair because, here Catalan people, we like improvising. And we've got an extra person on the panel who is supposed to be talking remotely, but now she's going to sit with us. Um, so the following panel discussion is aiming at basically talking about our reality as educators, talking about adult education and learning in Spain, and facing the challenges and opportunities that are open to us. So in that sense, we're going to start by a very brief introduction to the history of adult education and learning in Spain. And then we're going to make a very close reading, very short reading of a regulatory framework in order to focus on the current opportunities and facing towards the future, giving you some examples of our different local specificities. So my colleagues on the table are Karma Martinez Roca, who's coming from Barcelona. She's going to basically talk about Catalonia. We've got Merche, who's going to be talking about Alacant. And then we've got Eva, who's going to be talking about Valencia, Aragón. So Frederic is going to start opening this first section on the very brief historical approach to adult education in Spain.
Thank you so much, everyone, and excuse me before to coming for my Spanish, English, French. Okay, so in Spain, the training of adults has its origins, like so many other issues in our country, in the transition from Franco dictatorship to dawn of the first democratic transition. Indeed, after 40 years of autocratic regime in Spain, dominated by the motto of totalitarian thought, the unique and indisputable national identity through religion and control morality, in the early 70s, in parallel with movements in Europe and America, voices arise that call on the dying dictatorial state to perform transformation of a political, social, and cultural nature. It will be right in these years when the movements of the political left, the demands of unions and workers, and the visibility of the representatives of a basic Catholic Church, who had been silenced until that time in Spain, are coming to a strength. During this long period of change, we see the emergence of voice of the marginalized, who, once the Franco regime is over, are calling for improvements in their living conditions, for democratic participation in public management, for openness to dissidents, and for individual ethics and relevant aspects in the world of education, for a new model of education both in its generalist stage and in others that had not even existed until now, such as the training of adults. This is how the concept of equality of citizenship appears for the first time in Spain, through public education and the consideration of lifelong learning as a right of adults. In particular, women who had traditionally been relegated from their right to training. Therefore, Spanish education is reconciled as a right and social elevator. Also, education is no longer presented as unique and centralized reality to link itself to people and the closest environments. The neighborhood, the village or city, the region and its own regional identity different from the Spanish unitary identity. In the 80s, the formation of adults took place as a non-compulsory educational stage aimed at all those people who, for whatever reason, had not been able to enjoy the right to education. The most visible result of which will be the first adult schools, which arise at the initiative of municipal entities and that respond to the challenge of attending directly to their closest population. Associations all of kinds, unions and neighbors begin to meet in the recently created school in order to learn in democracy, learn by participation, learn among equals, and learn from the immediate context. The neighborhood, the town, city, the region, and nationality, Catalan, Basque, Valencian, Galician. Gradually, as we enter the 19th, the educational administration, both national and regional, begin to follow the steps that in previous years the municipalities had taken, so that a process of creation of a specific educational center for the training of adults is accelerated. At the moment, thanks to the very active involvement of the group of teachers, students, and unions, the consideration of adult education as the stage aimed at basic training, equal participation, cooperation and service, job placement, at the inclusion of the most vulnerable sectors of the population, women, unemployed people, young people without a qualification, and individuals disadvantaged due to poverty and immigration. So all that is consolidated. So in a few years, we have moved from a public school network focuses on compulsory education and therefore in the center of the system to expand towards the margin of society. On the one hand, early childhood education below, and on the other, vocational training and adult education above. This 20-year process is finally consolidated in the first half of the 19th, and it's right at this point, when paradoxically, there is a phenomenon that is dragged to present day, institutionalization. That is, the formation of adults extend at the same time that progressively it's losing the essence that defined its sense, its inception. This is what in dialogue table we call institutional vulnerability, which is reflected in the deep disconnection of educational administrations from the current training needs of young people and adults who are trained in our schools. To sum up, we will say that today the education of adults in Spain is based on a highly decentralized system organization in the hands of the different Spanish regions, and therefore on a dismembered system with obvious signs of decoordination, a lack of joint planning by the institution of the agents that make it up. Two more vulnerabilities to add to the institutional vulnerability mentioned above. Thank you so much, my colleagues.
We continue now by presenting the regulatory framework in 3 of the autonomous communities of Spain. There is a total of 17. We are representing 3 of them, and I'm specifically representing Catalonia. In Catalonia, there has been mainly one act that talks about adult education, and it was approved back in 1991. It has been the only one, and even though it has been only one, it has never been really applied. It was quite a progressive act back in time, and maybe that's the reason why it was not implemented. The issue the reason why is because adult education centers have been mainly dedicated to teach what early school leavers couldn't achieve in, let's say, compulsory education. The state regulates, the Spanish state, the general one, regulates upon that, and is the legislation that addresses the curriculum that deals or that offers the opportunity for early school leavers to go back to school and achieve their basic degree, the one that has been mostly implemented in adult education centers here in Catalonia. However, in a more or less near future, there may be a new act. As we speak, we have a white paper on a Catalan model of lifelong new opportunities. I would like you to notice that it says lifelong new opportunities. It doesn't say lifelong learning, new opportunities. And the reason why is because they want the wider possible scope when it comes to framing this new legislation. The main issue of this white paper is that it's basically centered on lifelong learning, on a lifelong learning perspective, not in a life width perspective. So that is, it has clear that it wants to be an act for 16 onwards, 16 years old onwards, but it's an act that intends only to address the professional dimension of adult education, leaving aside areas or dimensions such as the most social, the most academic, or the personal one. It is maybe in 1-2 years, if nothing changes, we will have this new act that, as it is now, what will make is to narrow the scope that adult education can offer, or adult education centers can offer to population. If I could just conclude with what is the present and future of adult education centers in Catalonia, would be to say that there is mainly a tendency from the government, from the acts that they want to implement, to have a legislation that will make adult education mainly a servant of neoliberalism more than facilitator of citizenship. And I'm going to pass to my colleague.
Good evening. I'm just going to present in short sentences the legal framework in Valencian about the adults' education, but very shortly. Okay. Our first law was the law 1/95, is the first law in Valencian community. And it was the first specific law for adults in a progressive framework for an evolving society with forecast of participation tools. But later, along 90 years, we found the consolidation of the municipal network for adults education centers, and also creation of new public network of centers of the Valencian community. Also the participation of the public adult school centers and their students association along as teaching staff, the board of social agents and others. From 2015 first, we have the cooperation, as we called JES. This is an acronym word that in English could be secondary education degree just for adults. I mean, people over 18 years old in this country. So we have JES teaching in the public centers and also the agonistic survival of the ALV system. And we know ALV system as a learner's view and a communicative approach from his space to learn over. Then from 2015 to 2023, now nearly nowadays, we have the promotion of collective participation and the development of regulation that deploy the legislative framework established during 90s years. Now, what is the situation now? The change of regional government produced in 2023 from social democracy to neoliberal policy, as my colleague said before, at a time when the transformation of the adult schools towards a holistic model faithful to use the spirit of the law 1/95, as I told you at the beginning of the regulatory framework, in which not only the basic training of adults and employability was promoted, but also the integral learning of the individuals encouraged their participation to get an integral civic and social competence, as well as the continuous training in languages and digital competencies, has strengthened the integral orientation of lifelong learning. At this stage, we are awaiting new regulation with the change of the government and the new law. We are waiting for ages, right? Just to have a competence education for our adults, because this is a particular point of view. I'm out of the record right now. I'm not talking about regulatory framework, but all the people will be our eldest in our near future, and we are part of our active society and must be taught in a quality way and also attended for our politicians and the regulatory framework. So we are waiting for that. Just finishing this legal framework in Valencian, just the adults schools tends to be as a kind of secondary education centers just for adults. This is not the topic. This is not the issue. This is not our item. We are adults and we teach for adults, not for the unsuccess ordinary educational system, right? And this is a delicate point. We are waiting to have a regulation better in this way. Thank you.
Well, the situation in Aragon is a bit different. Our previous law, 2002, was already quite progressist, taking into account the personal development, the citizen participation, and the social, cultural, liberal, educational insertion of the population in Aragon. But there was a lack on attention to elderly people. If you see Aragon, it is quite unpopulated. Of the 31 adult schools that are in the whole community, most of them are a compendium of tiny classrooms in very small villages. And I mean villages with about 100 inhabitants. That's small. Most of them, students, are retired. And most others, they already have a job. But however, the students were obliged to take courses leading to a certification, which makes no sense. The former law of 2019 is called Ley de Aprendizaje a lo Largo de la Vida, meaning lifelong learning law. And it introduces this concept of learning along our lives. So it's not only basic education, but also paying attention to the personal and the social development, which is quite a more European model of adult education and what we want. Nowadays, they introduce the courses of promotion and educational extension. Those courses, and I'll tell you an example, like memory workshops or ICT for elderly people, languages, Spanish as a second language, they don't lead to a certification. But they have a great demand, most of them from people between 50 and 80 years old, 80 years old. Yeah. They mean the 90% of the students in these small villages. So it also allows for the recognition and validation of competencies acquired outside the formal educational system, such as in the workplace or in social activities, thus increasing certification opportunities for many of them. It also introduces certificates of professionalism and other accreditations to improve labor market insertion and the development of key competencies such as languages or digital skills, as I mentioned before. In summary, this law focuses on flexibility, recognition of competencies, and broader collaboration to foster learning at all stages and ages too of adult life, better adapting to the current needs and realities.
All right, so we've been going through, the point of departure historically, what's been the evolution of adult education in Spain. Now we've been focusing on the legal framework, and we are getting into the core of our presentation, which leads us to the current opportunities in adult education. So in this section, we're going to explore the opportunities, the opportunities that adult education offers, despite the challenges posed by the regulatory framework. So to facilitate our discussion, we've organized this analysis into 4 key issues and areas: the civic and social dimension, which I'm going to be analyzing now, professional development, personal growth, and vocational aspects. So firstly, we will focus on the civic and social dimension of adult education. This aspect emphasizes the role of education in fostering active citizenship and community engagement. Adult education programs can empower individuals to participate in local governance or community initiatives, strengthening social civic responsibility. In fact, it acts as a vital instrument for promoting equity, inclusion, and social cohesion. In his critique of traditional, that goes backwards, In his critique of traditional pedagogy, Paulo Freire talks about the banking concept of education, and I'm quoting: "The more students work at storing deposits entrusted to them, the less they develop the critical consciousness which would result from their intervention in the world as transformers of that world." End of quote. What is actually required to give most people real choices is precisely the kind of critical and reflexive education Freire insisted on as a right of all citizens, and a pedagogy which liberates them to understand the nature of their oppression and act upon their reality in order to transform it. Freire wanted learners to be able to analyze social and political situations that influenced and limited people's lives' opportunities, and education to lead to that action. So education must be, according to him, a democratic and dialogical process, because by knowing the world, human beings can start the journey to freedom. So in sharp contrast then to the banking concept, he developed the idea of problem-posing education. Adult education isn't just about expanding one's knowledge or skill set. It is also about developing critical thinking and fostering social inclusion. But then again, what does social inclusion really mean in this context? It refers to the ability of all individuals to participate fully in education and, by extension, in the society they live in. If we consider knowledge to be socially constructed, therefore, then transformative education should focus on knowledge producers, not on knowledge consumers. If we consider adult education from this transformative standpoint, it builds towards a democratic and participatory society because it accesses other kinds of knowledge and power which might force change in certain social structures. TFA Rius i Taulet, it's my example, right? For adult, it's a school for adults here in Spain. It has started building an educational project based on Freire's precepts with the intention to be constituted as a learning community in the near future. Very hard work to do. I'm the head of study there. So this is a school for adults, for you to get a context, located in one of the districts in the upper town area of Barcelona, somewhere between Gracia and Sarrià Sant Gervasi. And this very special location generates a very unique space of multiple encounters that would rarely take place outside the school. So our students come from very different parts of the city and of its outskirts, as well as people who live in the area. And its community is formed by 700 students, more or less, 10 teachers, and a substantial groups of volunteers and collaborators. Our students come from very different social and cultural backgrounds, and we have a wide range of diversity in all courses that we offer. Secondary education, elementary, Catalan, Spanish for newcomers, IT courses, well, everything that has been mentioned before. So the school provides educational opportunities to people with few or no formal qualifications, as well as qualified professionals with diverse motivations for any of the courses that we offer. The main objective of our project then is to foster conviviality among the different members of a community by suggesting encounters inside and outside the classroom and designing activities, conferences, workshops that raise critical consciousness, reflection, action, and the mixture of students from the different courses. Our programs have been designed taking into account some cross-curricular contents that are related to gender politics. We are organizing a roundtable discussion for the 25th of November, active citizenship. We've been recently participating in participatory budgeting proposed by the council, anti-racist politics, social conscience, and environmental politics. So participants can study from a range of core subjects which they want to learn, as well as cross-curricular workshops, conferences, cultural trips, activities in the city that turn the school into a cultural center where a wide range of training and learning opportunities are taking place, which are directly linked to associations and community-based projects in the city. So we see learning communities as critical components for building distributed leadership and scaling promising practices by connecting organizations, agencies, and volunteers who both share the community's goal and have the capability to operate at scale. So the educational experience is underpinned by explicit principles of dialogic learning, which reflects the serious nature of schools' democratic commitment. But then again, how do we articulate such proposals? The school has a small number of professional educators, and at the same time, it involves a much wider number of collaborators, including sympathetic university educators, former students, volunteers, language assistants, mentors, psychologists, and local people with the aim of building up a learning community. An assembly of adult learners, democratically organized, has modeled itself on the dialogic and democratic principles of the school and has started suggesting associations and activities and learning experiences that have been suggested from students themselves, such as philosophy seminars, cooking workshops, intergenerational mentoring, and so on and so forth. So one of the main goals of a school is to promote critical thinking, for example, among every member of a community. And within that framework, we've designed a reading program that is being implemented in all courses, which has been designed collaboratively with the whole teaching team and a commission of experts formed by bookish students who have made a selection of texts following the main principles mentioned above. So the idea is organizing interviews with writers, conferences by editors, reading workshops, a whole literary cycle made out of 6 different reading clubs led by social activists, writers, and experts. These and many other programs, projects, and activities often combine education with social support, creating that holistic approach that addresses the multifaceted needs of adult learners. That was the example, so I pass on.
Good, let's see the professional dimension of this adult education. Access to continuing education courses leading to official and professional qualification represents a key opportunity for adults seeking to improve their academical and professional profile. These courses enable participants to acquire the skills necessary to obtain certificates that opens the door in the labor market. From access to secondary education to a specific qualification in technical fields, these courses not only update knowledge, but also boost the development of practical and specialized skills, providing students with the foundation of advanced to higher levels of education, and of course, to find or improve in employment. This is the case of Natalia. I'm not sure if we can play the video, which is over there.
Hello, my name is Natalia Urova. I was born in Tajikistan, but my parents are Russian. At the age of 15, I met my husband right there, and we decided to come here to Spain to live. When we arrived in Spain, we were welcomed in Sigüenza, at a refugee center. We lived there for a year. After that, we moved to Tenerife, because we really liked it, and we lived there for several years. However, those were challenging years. We lived in a camping site with 3 very young children. Later, we relocated here to the Sierra de Teruel. We love it, and we've been living and working there for almost 30 years. When I was able to study, despite working a lot, I started my secondary education here in Cella, a nearby town. I am grateful to the teachers who have truly taught me many things, and that's how I began to study and build my life as a professional. Now I'm working in a nursing home. I studied nursing assistant and I'm currently the coordinator of this residence where you can find me. The truth is, I'm happy with my life.
To sum up is to say that adult educational centers play a fundamental role as engines of labor market insertion. The offer of vocationally oriented training not only strengthens the local employment fabric, but also raises the level of training of the community, improving employment opportunities. Thus, the centers become tools for inclusion, promotion, both individual and collective, development, and favoring adaptation to the demands of the market. Her journey led her to an unexpected turning point when she discovered the Adult Education Center in Cella, where I worked, which became instrumental in her path to a new career and personal growth. Originally from Tajikistan, Natalia's education was cut short due to the political and social instability following Gorbachev's perestroika. Forced to move from place to place, including time in Crimea, she ultimately married at 15 and started a family. When she and her husband moved to Spain, they built a life from scratch, working various jobs and raising their 3 children despite any hardships, including years spent living in a caravan. After a decade working as a cook, Natalia broke her ankle and lost her job, and the subsequent pandemic lockdown forced her to reconsider her future. A Facebook ad for nursing assistant inspired her to apply, and despite having no qualifications, she was hired to work in a COVID residence. There, she discovered her passion for healthcare, but realized that lacking formal qualification would hinder her in finding a stable long-term employment. That's when she decided to take a crucial step, contacting our adult education school. The center in Sevilla provided her with courses in key competencies in language, Spanish language as a second, and mathematics, which are essential for pursuing the certificate of professionalism in social and healthcare. Her teachers also encouraged her to aim higher by preparing for the intermediate level entrance exams, which could eventually qualify her as a nursing assistant. Her time at the adult school has given her a renewed sense of purpose and the skills she wished she'd had earlier, not only for work, but also to help her children when they were young. Although she still faces challenges, like her unresolved nationality status, Natalia is deeply grateful to the teachers at Thea, whose support has transformed her outlook and opened doors she never thought possible.
Hi again. I'm just going to be in a rush because I think time is gold, like my students who are gold too, because they are in their golden age. Well, I'm just going to talk about the personal and emotional dimension of adult schools. Comprehensive development through transversal and specific actions implies a global approach. All of us, we know that. As you can see on a screen, there are some pictures of our real life, daily life in our school with activities with them. Talking about transversal actions as those that impact in multiple areas, such as education, academic guidance, and others, we must talk also about specific action. This specific action are designed to address the particular need of adult people, adult learners, such as implementation of adult literacy programs and academic guidance. Combining both the transversal and specific ones, we have an effective intervention promoting a balanced and sustainable growth. In this way, human development is enhanced and the quality of life of other people is involved in this learning process is improved, and at the same time, they are also training for 3 basic concepts that I'm just going to mention now. The first one is we need a school for individuals. This is important for us. Just being better people, attending to adult school, attending to a school center. To promote strategies for emotional and psychological education. The second one is we offer a school for society. The first one for the individual, who you are, who you need, what you need, and then you are part of a society. This is the school for society. Just trying to be better citizens and better neighbors in your neighborhood. Creating didactics activities aimed at citizen participation in the cultural life too. And the third branch is we offer a school for people. It's more than individual, it's more than society, it's for people. What does it mean being? To learn more and to learn in autonomous way. And living into active aging, this is a very important concept for us. The active aging is not a name, but is a methodology to grow up, as we always keep on learning things long the life, wide the life, and all what you know. So emotional and physical well-being too. For that, just I'm going to present you an exact example of my school, what it's called Escoleta de Mayors. That's difficult to explain in English, but I'm just try it. It's like a school for our golden people, right? And the project attends workshop aim at promoting the active aging. It's so important for us of our elderly from a global approach. And this school year 24-25, we offer 3 workshops that we consider they ask us. The first one is the literary creation and expression workshop. Stimulating the memory, stimulating the text creation, not only the text creations from writers, from books, from internet, but also their own creations which are able to communicate. Something important for me. I'm 72 years old. I want to communicate something to others, and I don't know how to do it because my tools to do it needs the school to do it. Some of them have no a degree, 78, 76. We are the school for these tools, with these tools, to get that aim, to express themselves in a written way. This is really important for our eldest. This is the first workshop. The second one is health, well-being, and obviously active aging workshop. This workshop aims at promoting and maintaining physical and mental health, not only with our resources, but also with personal, by local health, about talks, about injuries at home, first aids, these things that you, when you are young, you think nothing is impossible. But perhaps when you are our golden age, sometimes it's difficult, mentally and physically. So this workshop is interesting for them too. And the third one, we think is important, is about culture and heritage workshop, to get how different places declare as historical and cultural heritage sites in Alicante and surrounding. And likewise, all the cultural activities we do with them make our students feel active people, because I think they are active people. Most of them are retired with no working or productive results. As a human being, however, is not enough to be productive. So for that reason, the cultural heritage and all the things they can adapt and bring and also offer as a experienced people, this is gold for us. Just to sum up, these are the 3 workshops we have. We must care our adults because they have experience, but what they have also is active person, yet and along the line. Thank you.
Okay, we are almost there. The last dimension that we would like to offer an example of is the academic dimension and how it is addressed in an adult education center. I'm going to very briefly explain you a project called Transitioning to a Better Future, which is addressed to youth from 16 to 29 years old who are neither studying nor working. So these youth, these youngsters, they come to the school not for a specific course, as it has been mentioned in other examples, but just to restart a process that eventually will take them back to the educational system. And just to start by telling you the results, this is done in an adult education center, of course, and the project mainly has around 50 to 60 youngsters of this age per year. And last year, the results that this project got was that an 83% of the youngsters who participated returned to the educational system. And the rest either found a job or went back to other training that was not formal, but that also put them a step closer to returning to the educational system. How is this done? How do we get these results? The main basis is through educational guidance. The key for these results are that these kids have a mentor that individually mentors them along the whole process. So they have this person that they can trust, that they can build confidence on, that goes along the way with them in the different activities that the project offers. Those activities are lots of workshops of all kinds, from one called Dropping Out is Not an Option to another one that tells them about the various opportunities that they have ahead. And well, a diverse type of workshops that mainly address their interests and try to show them that even though they wouldn't think so, there are plenty of opportunities ahead for them to return to the educational system. One key project or one key activity is a course, so to say, that it's a social entrepreneurship course. But social entrepreneurship not understood as a way to build up a business, but as a way to build up solutions for small challenges that they have around based on their interests. Last year, interests were drug addiction or substance addiction. And they built up small projects that addressed specific people in specific places of their town, where they went and they were able, I don't know, for instance, they went to a secondary education school and they would offer workshops. So the students there would realize that maybe there is an option to consume less, or maybe there is an option to have a more responsive consumption. What else? Something that is key also in the project is to be able to build up connections and collaboration with diverse organizations of the municipality. And the intergenerational exchange takes also a place with, again, the typical is this activities where the youngsters teach the elders how to use their mobile phone. And there is also a project called the Radio Project, where what they do is to disseminate to the rest of the town what are they doing and how important it is and how important they feel by doing it. With this, what they achieve is to rebuild trust in themselves and trust in the system. And this is what is key for them to be able to say, yes, okay, I have another chance and I have something to offer. And therefore that triggers their return to school. Summing up, with all this, what you have been seeing is that even though our regulatory framework constrains quite a lot in theory, in practice, we have learned to walk along the borders of the system, if I can put it that way. So we can offer what the regulatory system does not more or less allows us to offer. And with this, what we come up to offer you is a decalogue for this 21st century conception of lifelong learning. specifically of adult education learning. And this decalogue would go, the first point would be this, on a value point of view, personal development, social equity as the main keys of what should lead adult education. When it comes to the span of adult education, it would be lifelong, 16, 18 onwards. Life with would mean personal, professional, academic, I'm forgetting one, and civic dimensions. When it comes to participants, fostering intergenerational, intercultural, and for everybody, not only for the vulnerable, but also for the, you could say, all type of social and economic status. When it comes to the role of the professionals, mentoring is a key one, building this trust, but also bringing up new professionals. So altogether can do all, or can contribute to the 4 dimensions mentioned. We would do that in diverse learning spaces, inside the center, outside the center, virtually, hybrid, face-to-face. We can only do it with the collaborating with other institutions that offer the supports that the school cannot offer, based on a governance that is focused on the technical and pedagogical criteria, not on the political swings that sometimes can make us go from right to left. We need to work a lot on quality assessment in order to be able to disseminate what we do and to be able to prove that all what we say here has a theory, has a practice, and has results. And the dream is building these learning communities where we all recognize all as one in this aim of doing all what this decalogue or these other 9 points mention.
We would like to, after this dialogue that we've established within the different kind of regions of Spain, and the exchange that this discussion has brought with it, we have written down some kind of conclusions, reflections that we want to share with you very briefly, and they read as follows. So we live in a globalized world dictated by the tyrannies of productivity and immediacy, a world which is constantly changing with frantic rhythms affected by syndrome impatience, as Bauman suggests. A world where waiting is intolerable, long-term satisfaction is unthinkable, and long-term processes are unimaginable. We live in a world in which knowledge and learning are perceived as constantly expiring in a perpetual state of planning obsolescence. Long-term knowledge learning is constantly struggling against instructive knowledge learning. So fighting against this so extended its instructive tendency of education as a market product at the service of competitiveness is a great challenge, especially in adult education contexts. Although the specific objectives of adult education in Spain consist in developing programs and courses related to specific educational needs for vulnerable groups at risk of social exclusion, as well as to develop people's capacity to participate in social, cultural, and political events within the paradigm of lifelong learning, we have been witnessing the rise of a narrowly vocational focus framed within these instructive logics and legitimated by the dominant policy discourses of lifelong learning. Our roundtable has intended to claim that adult education environments might potentially become unique spaces for social encounter and transformation, where a wide range of diversities of people build a network of affects, learning exchanges, and social interactions which delude the privilege oppression matrices and raise awareness of alternative understandings of interdependency by means of service, learning, volunteering, associative network, and active participation of its members within the learning communities. The encounter with the self and the other, generational other, gendered other, racialized other, social other, inside and outside the classroom, problematizes each member's sense of self and reinforces the collective sense of interdependency within the community. Different subject positions pursuing a common goal in a common learning context. There is no step back. Adult education requires a political dimension, a dimension that operates at the level of micropolitics. The micropolitics from the local and social fabric it is inscribed in. In a world dominated by the tyrannies of productivity and immediacy, long life learning contexts offer us the opportunity to stop, analyze, and take action. As a global economy deflates, the coming economic crisis seems to be imminent. The refugee crisis in Europe accelerates, and social inequalities accentuate. Adult learning seems the perfect scenario for resilience, social transformation, and community action. I think we could leave it here. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we're open to keep on with the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes, so keep it short and keep the responses short.
Thank you. So my name is Dani. I'm from Lebanon. I'm director of the Continuing Education Center at the Notre Dame University. Its name is Lifelong Learning Center, and I like what you told us about lifelong new opportunities. I liked it. And I wanted to raise the issue of those who did not even go into any education system. You didn't mention, because you were talking about those who are coming back to the education system, but those who did not even have the chance, the displaced people, or those who cannot afford going to any education system. And I want also to know more about the legislations and the requirements to come back to the system, and the job requirements. So those who goes into this system, for example, in this framework, and have the opportunity to be lifelong learners, okay, but when they go to job market, okay, I finished. When they go to the job market, is there any requirements also to, or they are, they have the chance to go to the job market if they are lifelong learners and they get certified? Thank you.
Adult learning centers do have opportunities for people who are not within the educational system to start in the educational system. No requirements, no. As a matter of fact, adult education centers at some point were very, very progressive, because they would accept people that wouldn't have papers, so to say, didn't have
they were not regularized. In fact, we've got programs which we work with under 18 students who come from all over the world, and they haven't got the social, their paperwork fixed up, so they don't have a way to be trained, and adult education is an option.
Yes. And in terms of the job market, of course, you have your issues. You need certain requirements, but the main requirement is to have a work permit, which is not something that comes from the adult education centers. The adult education centers in our nowadays legislation may allow people without papers to get them, because there is a specification in the law that says that you can get those papers if you can prove that you have been 2 years within education. So, as you say, we try to go in, we fight. Yeah, we are fighters. Definitely we are. And we are public. This is very important. So we even fight against the regulatory framework. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. Keep it quick and the quick response. We've got 2 minutes left.
Thank you. My name is Christian. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. I congratulate you on the progress that you've made within your communities. As you mentioned in the presentation, the regulatory framework is limiting the progress that you can have. Therefore, I ask, what can you do within the 17 autonomous communities, the municipalities, and at the state level immediately at this moment to ensure that at least within the next year, that grip that comes from the regulatory framework loosens and you can continue the progress at a larger scale? Thank you.
Well, in 1 year time, no, nothing. But it's very important to understand that because we are decentralized, there is nothing that can be done at state level. This is something that can be done at each one of the autonomous communities. And at this stage, if you ask Catalonia, yes, we are fighting so this potential law does not, it does not come to reality. And in this we are working. Maybe 2 years, not 1, 2, but we will get there one way or another.
The Valencian answer will be a bit different, and I understand her point of view going to be different because we have autonomous communities with some local laws about education, and the competence in education is from Valencian, different from Catalonia and different from Aragon. This is a difficult answer, share answer.
Teachers are the key always, so depends on the teacher.
Fantastic. And look, just to time. Perfect. Thank you very much.